I honestly still can't believe it happened, even now, months later. I paid off my wife's entire family's $165,000 debt, a massive burden that had been hanging over them for years, something I did purely out of love and a desire to see her happy and stress-free. And what did I get in return? She moved in with her lover, just packed her bags and left, leaving me a note that was more of a slap in the face than an explanation. Was I wrong for wanting to absolutely dismantle everything she held dear after that? Tell me, honestly, would you have done the same thing? Because what followed wasn't just heartbreak. It was a cold, calculated plan for revenge against her and her family, a family that had happily accepted my money without a second thought. Let me take you back to the beginning, to a time when I thought I had it all. My name is Alex and I'm a software engineer. I'd met Sarah, my now ex-wife, about 5 years ago through mutual friends. She was vibrant, intelligent, and had this infectious laugh that could light up a room. I fell hard and fast. We dated for a couple of years and everything felt perfect. We talked about our future, our dreams, kids, a house with a big garden, the whole 9 yards. Sarah came from a slightly different background than me. Her family, while loving, had always struggled financially. Her parents ran a small, failing business, and her 2 younger siblings were still in college, racking up student loan debt. It was a constant source of stress for Sarah, and I saw how much it weighed on her. She'd often come home from visits with her family looking drained, teary-eyed, talking about their looming debts, the house potentially being foreclosed, and the pressure on her to help out, even though her own income as a graphic designer wasn't substantial enough to make a real dent. I, on the other hand, had been fortunate. My career had taken off, and I had managed to save a significant amount of money and had a decent investment portfolio. I wasn't flaunting it, but Sarah was aware of my financial stability. We got engaged a year ago, and the wedding planning was in full swing. It was around this time that the family debt issue became critical. Sarah's parents were facing bankruptcy. The business was beyond saving, and the bank was threatening to repossess their home. It was a dire situation, and Sarah was absolutely distraught. She spent days crying, feeling helpless, talking about how her family would be out on the streets, how her siblings would have to drop out of college to work and help, how her parents' health was deteriorating under the stress. I saw the woman I loved breaking, and I couldn't stand it. One evening, after a particularly tearful phone call she had with her mother, I sat her down. "Sarah," I said, "we're getting married. Your family is going to be my family. Their problems are our problems." She looked at me, her eyes red and puffy, confused. "What are you saying, Alex?" "I'm saying I can help. I can pay off their debts, all of it." The words hung in the air. She stared at me, then a slow smile spread across her face, followed by tears, but this time they were tears of relief. She hugged me so tightly I thought my ribs would crack. "Are you serious? You would do that for us?" she whispered into my shoulder. "Of course I would. I love you, Sarah. I want you to be happy, and I know this is the biggest weight on your shoulders." It wasn't a small amount. We're talking $165,000. It was a significant portion of my savings, but I had more. I saw it as an investment in our future, in her happiness, in building a strong foundation for our marriage without the shadow of family debt looming over us. We went to the bank with her parents, restructured everything, and I transferred the funds directly to clear all their outstanding loans, the business debt, the mortgage arrears, even some of the sibling student loan principal. Her parents were effusive in their gratitude. They cried, hugged me, called me their savior, their angel. Her siblings sent me heartfelt thank you messages. Sarah was ecstatic. She was like a different person overnight, her vibrant self returning, her laughter echoing through our apartment again. The stress lines around her eyes disappeared. She talked about how this was a fresh start for her family, how they could finally breathe, how they could rebuild. Our wedding was beautiful. It was a joyous occasion, free of the financial worries that had plagued her family for so long. We moved into a new, larger apartment a few months after. Life felt incredibly good. I was happy, truly happy, believing I had done something good, something noble, for the woman I loved and her family. I was riding high on the belief that our marriage was built on a foundation of genuine love, trust, and shared commitment. Then things slowly, subtly started to change. It wasn't immediate, but in hindsight, the signs were there. Sarah started spending more time at work, often coming home late, smelling faintly of a cologne that wasn't mine. She'd brush it off, saying it was a new scent a colleague was wearing, or that she'd been at a client meeting that ran late. Her phone was constantly with her, face down, and she'd get agitated if I even glanced at it. She started becoming more distant, less affectionate. Our conversations dwindled to mundane topics, and the spark we once shared seemed to be flickering out. I tried to talk to her, to ask her what was wrong, if there was something bothering her, if she was unhappy. She'd always deflect, saying she was just stressed with work or that I was being paranoid. I wanted to believe her desperately. I loved her, and the thought of anything being wrong between us was gut-wrenching, especially after everything we'd been through, everything I'd done for her family. But the nagging feeling in my gut wouldn't go away. The late nights turned into overnight stays, explained away as design retreats or urgent deadlines. My calls would go straight to voicemail, sometimes for hours. When she did answer, her voice would be tight, impatient. Her family, surprisingly, became less communicative too. After the initial gratitude, they stopped calling or checking in as frequently. I put it down to them rebuilding their lives, being busy. I wanted to believe the best in everyone. But deep down, a cold dread was starting to set in. One evening, she told me she was going on a weekend trip with her colleagues, a team-building exercise for a big new project. I was skeptical, but I tried to be understanding. She packed a small bag, kissed me quickly on the cheek, and left. The apartment felt hollow without her. That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind was racing. I picked up her iPad, which she usually left lying around, thinking I'd watch a movie. It was open to her email. And there it was. Not a work email, but a deeply personal, intimate exchange with a man named Mark. The subject line alone made my blood run cold. "Missing you already, my love." I clicked it open. The emails painted a vivid, agonizing picture. Pet names, inside jokes, plans for their romantic weekend getaway, declarations of love, explicit details of their physical intimacy. My heart hammered in my chest. My hands trembled so violently I almost dropped the iPad. This wasn't a team-building exercise. This was a secret rendezvous with her lover. The man was mentioned as a colleague, yes, but clearly their relationship was anything but professional. I scrolled further, back through weeks, then months of exchanges. The affair had been going on for a long time, possibly even before our wedding, definitely accelerating after I paid off her family's debt. It was like a punch to the gut, over and over again. Every loving word, every tender moment we had shared, every sacrifice I had made, felt like a cruel joke. I felt like a fool, a complete, utter idiot. I closed the iPad, my mind a whirlwind of disbelief, anger, and profound sadness. The woman I adored, the woman I had literally saved from financial ruin, was betraying me in the most heinous way possible. So that's the situation I was in, and I had to make a choice. Before I tell you what happened next, I want you to pause and comment below what you would have done in my shoes. Would you have confronted her immediately? Would you have gathered more evidence? Or would you have, like me, started to quietly formulate a plan? I didn't confront her immediately. I couldn't. I was too numb, too shocked. I needed time to process, to feel the full weight of the betrayal, and to figure out what I was going to do. The weekend she was away with Mark was pure agony for me. I barely ate, barely slept. I replayed every conversation, every interaction, searching for clues I had missed, for any sign that this was coming. It all made sense now. The distance, the late nights, the phone secrecy. The puzzle pieces clicked into place, forming a horrifying picture of deceit. By the time she came home on Sunday evening, looking refreshed and annoyingly cheerful, I had composed myself, at least on the surface. I greeted her as usual, trying to act normal, trying to hide the storm raging inside me. We made small talk. She told me about her colleagues, the presentations, the team bonding activities. Each word was a fresh stab to my heart, but I just nodded, smiled thinly, and pretended to listen. I knew I couldn't live with this lie. I knew I couldn't let her get away with it. But I also knew I needed to be smart. My love had turned to a bitter, burning desire for justice, for retribution. Not just against her, but against her entire family who had so eagerly accepted my generosity only for me to be treated like a disposable ATM. The very next day, I began my quiet investigation. I hired a private investigator discreetly to confirm everything I already suspected and to gather irrefutable evidence. Within a week, the pie delivered. Photos, videos, hotel receipts, call logs, proof beyond a shadow of a doubt. Sarah and Mark everywhere together, looking like a blissful, loving couple. They were even looking at apartments together. That's when I knew she wasn't just having an affair. She was planning to leave me. With the evidence in hand, my plan started to solidify. I didn't want a quick, clean divorce. I wanted her to feel a fraction of the pain she had inflicted on me. And I wanted her family to understand the consequences of her actions, and by extension, their implicit acceptance of my money without any true loyalty or gratitude. First, I consulted with a divorce lawyer, a tough, no-nonsense woman recommended by a friend. I laid out everything, showed her the evidence. She was appalled. "Alex," she said, "we can make sure she gets nothing. In fact, given the circumstances and your financial contributions, we can go after her for spousal support in reverse if you want to be truly aggressive. And as for the money you paid her family, that's a separate issue but definitely leverage." This was music to my ears. I told her I wanted to be aggressive. I wanted to make sure Sarah walked away with nothing but the clothes on her back, and that her family felt the sting of her betrayal as well. My revenge began with her family. I started by sending a carefully worded anonymous email to her parents and siblings. It contained a single damning photo of Sarah and Mark kissing passionately, along with a link to a discreetly created website that hosted all the other evidence I had gathered: the emails, the receipts, the pie's report. I didn't say anything, just let the images and words speak for themselves. The subject line was simply, "Your daughter's true happiness." I knew this would cause chaos within their family, force them to confront Sarah, and more importantly, make them realize the kind of person they were dealing with, the kind of betrayal I was enduring. The fallout was immediate. My phone started ringing off the hook, but I ignored their calls. Sarah's phone was also buzzing constantly. She tried to hide it, but I could hear the desperate pleas from her mother, the angry shouts from her father. She looked pale, frantic. She knew I knew. The tension in our apartment was suffocating. I kept a poker face, observing her unravel. Then came the day she finally moved out. It was a Monday morning. I woke up to find a hastily scrawled note on the kitchen counter. "Alex, I'm sorry, I've left. I'm with Mark. Please don't try to find me. Sarah." No explanation, no real apology, just a cowardly desertion. The note infuriated me, but it also gave me exactly what I needed: undeniable proof of abandonment. She had made it easy for me. I immediately filed for divorce, citing abandonment and adultery, attaching all the evidence. My lawyer wasted no time. Now came the second part of my revenge, targeting the $165,000 I'd paid to her family. I scheduled a meeting with Sarah's parents. They arrived, looking devastated and incredibly uncomfortable. Sarah's mother was crying, her father looked defeated. They tried to apologize for Sarah's actions, to express their disappointment in her. I listened impassively. "I appreciate your sentiments," I said, my voice cold and steady, "but your daughter's betrayal has far-reaching consequences. Consequences that, unfortunately, extend to you." They looked at me confused. "What do you mean, Alex?" her father asked, his voice hoarse. "When I paid off your debts," I continued, "it was an act of goodwill, an investment in our shared future, a foundation for my marriage to your daughter. That foundation has been shattered by her actions. And frankly, the premise under which that money was given is now null and void." I then produced a carefully drafted legal document, prepared by my lawyer. It was a promissory note, backdated and signed by Sarah and me. I had forged her signature with surprising ease. Thanks to some practice. It stated that the $165,000 I paid to them was not a gift, but a loan, contingent on the success and integrity of my marriage to Sarah. And since the marriage had failed due to her infidelity and abandonment, the loan was now due in full with interest. The expressions on their faces were priceless. They gasped, their eyes wide with disbelief and horror. But But it was a gift, Alex, Sarah's mother stammered, tears streaming down her face. You said it was a gift. No, I countered. I said it was an investment in our future. And in good faith, I believed that future would involve a loyal wife and a supportive family. Clearly, I was mistaken. The document states otherwise. And if you refuse to acknowledge it, my lawyers are prepared to pursue legal action to recover the funds, including placing a lien on your newly unburdened home and seizing any assets. I explained in excruciating detail how their family's finances would be utterly destroyed if they fought me. I showed them copies of the property deeds, bank statements, and even their children's college fund details, all easily accessible through public records and some clever online digging. I had laid out a scenario where they would lose everything: their home, their savings, their children's education, all to pay back a debt that they had thought was gone forever. They were cornered. They had no legal leg to stand on, especially with the promissory note I had fabricated. They knew I had them. The realization slowly dawned on them that their daughter's actions had plunged them back into the very financial abyss I had pulled them out of. It took them a few days to consult with their own lawyer, who, after reviewing my evidence and the prepared legal documents, advised them that fighting me would be a losing battle, far more costly and damaging. They had no choice but to agree to a repayment plan. I insisted on aggressive terms, monthly installments that would put a significant strain on their already fragile income, and an immediate lump sum payment from any available savings, which they reluctantly agreed to. The look of utter despair on their faces as they signed the agreement was both heartbreaking and immensely satisfying. They had enabled Sarah, accepted my money, and now they were paying the price for her betrayal. As for Sarah, the divorce proceedings were brutal. My lawyer meticulously presented all the evidence of her affair and abandonment. Sarah tried to deny it at first, tried to claim I was abusive, tried to paint herself as the victim. But the sheer volume and damning nature of the evidence crushed her every argument. The judge was not sympathetic. She received nothing. No spousal support, no share of our assets, not even her personal belongings beyond what she could carry. I made sure to change the locks on our apartment the day she moved out and had her few remaining items boxed up and sent to her new address, Mark's apartment. The final divorce decree was a resounding victory for me and a crushing defeat for her. I heard through the grapevine from mutual friends who were disgusted by her actions that she was struggling. Mark, it turned out, wasn't as wealthy as she had hoped. He had his own financial issues, and now he was saddled with a live-in girlfriend who had no money and no prospect of getting any from her ex-husband. Her family, now burdened with the debt I had reinstated, was furious with her. They blamed her for everything, for bringing them back to square one, for ruining their relationship with me. The family that she had tried to save by getting me to pay their debts was now torn apart, largely because of her own choices. The emotional scars are still there, of course. Trusting someone so completely, only to be so utterly betrayed, leaves a mark. But the sting of the betrayal has been dulled by the knowledge that I stood up for myself, that I didn't let her and her family walk all over me. I got my justice. Her family is now paying me back, slowly but surely, every month a reminder of what happened. Sarah is living with the consequences of her choices, financially destitute and estranged from her family. I, on the other hand, am rebuilding. I'm focusing on my career, my friends, and finding joy in simpler things. I've learned a harsh, expensive lesson about love, trust, and the true cost of betrayal. But I've also learned that I am strong enough to fight back, to defend myself, and to ensure that those who wrong me face the consequences. I don't regret my actions, not for a second. So that's my story. It's been a whirlwind of emotion, from love to devastating heartbreak to cold, calculated revenge. I hope this serves as a cautionary tale, but also as a testament to standing firm when you've been wronged. If you were on my side through this whole mess, please like this video. It helps a lot more than you know. Also, if you want to hear more stories of betrayal and unexpected revenge, subscribe to my channel. And most importantly, share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section below. What would you have done differently? Did I go too far, or was my revenge justified? I'll see you all in the next story.